Good afternoon, my friends, and today we are going to take a step back from last night. Mistakes were made, well, really one big mistake, which I shall explain in a moment, but we are just getting set up, ready to go, and I am basically creating sound cues which I'm going to use in our animation blueprint. So with that in mind, let's create these cues. Okay, and what we shall do is we shall grab these and drag them into enemy, and we'll move them here. Then we're going to create a folder and we'll call it sound effects. Then we'll grab all these again and we'll pop them in here. We may further split that up, but that's us ready to go. Now, what I'm going to do is, for the sake of you guys watching out there in YouTube land, I'm going to recreate the blueprint. Okay, so we're going to create the blueprint from scratch. And then, depending on how far we get and if everything is working, then we may add the beginning of some AI. But for the moment, what we're going to do is we're going to go to animation and we're going to create animation blueprint. And it's going to be based on our robot. Okay, now this is the error I made last night. I just copied the first person one across and it wasn't based on the robot or anything, so we ended up with problems. So we're going with the sci-fi robot, etc, blah de blah. Okay, and we're going to call it anim BP underscore enemy robot. Okay, from there we open this up and we're going to add a state machine. Then we're going to rename it as actions, and we're going to plug it into here. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to open this and we're going to add a state, and that state is going to be idle run. We're going to open this, and the next thing we've got to do is we need it to be controlled by speed. So we basically say speed, and that is going to be a float, and in our idle run we are going to, let's hang on a second, I think I've done a step too fast here. We're going to grab the asset browser and We're going to drag that in, drag this in, we're going to pull the speed into here, then we're going to straighten our pins, and we'll straighten this. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to open our event graph, right, and we're going to use this just now. So we're going to say is valid. This is the standard of what you'll see normally when you see these being done. Okay. And then we need velocity. And the length of the vector. Okay. And then we set the speed with this value. Okay. So this will be coming off the movement speed from the character movement, okay, of our blueprint. Not the animation blueprint, but the actual blueprint for the robot, okay? So let me explain that a second. So in our blueprint enemy, we have character movement, okay? Now that character movement is updated automatically and gives us a speed of walking and running, okay? So it's going to pull a number from here that is updated automatically, that's going to give us the speed of this character, and it's going to get fed into, automatically get fed into the animation blueprint. Okay? So we do that. And that is the basics for giving us some animation. Okay? And we can see here that this is the output animation pose. And we shall leave it at that. Now, sound cues, footsteps. Let's set that up. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to say foot step cues, okay, and then we're going to change this to a sound cue, okay, and it's going to be an array. Okay, now we could load these up directly from a data table, which we may do later, but for the moment we can compile this and then we can actually add these manually. Okay, so in our footstep cues we can basically, we had 6. Now these are all of the same type. These are all metal, right? To give us the sound of walking on metal, because it's basically a metal robot. Okay? And what we can do with that is we can go to sound effects and we can drop these in here. 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Okay, so we have our default footsteps. Okay, now how do we use these? Well, we can't use them here at the moment. And how do we link them directly to when a footstep is actually made? So what we do is we go into our robot walk, right? And this is our animation, and we can see when exactly that foot hits the ground. Then what we can do is, this is slightly different actually. Let me see here. If we add a notify, and we call it step. Okay, and now we can move to our next one right there. And we basically click step. Okay, and that is when, hey Dante, and that is when our two steps will be played. Our step here when it hits the ground, and here when it hits the ground. Okay, so now we can go back into here, and we will now have an action on an event anim notify step. Okay, so when this notify gets hit in the animation, it's going to trigger this event, and with this event we can pull in our cues, right? And then we can say length. We can get the length of this. We know it's 6, but we want this code to work in all occasions, so we just say length -1. That's equal, so we'll do minus. So we do length -1. Then we do integer in range, and we go from 0 to this number here. Okay, then we get a copy of this, and we pick this element in the array, or random element, okay, and then we can play sound. Hey Kofi, how are you today? And we play sound at location. Okay, now we are going to need an attenuator, but we're just going to use the default one for now. Right, so the sound is going to be here. And we're going to be using, actually, you know what we should do at this point? What we're going to do in here is we're going to add a variable, right? And it's going to be called pawn. So what we're going to actually do is set up our pawn, and it's actually going to be BP base enemy. Okay, and it's not going to be an array. And we're actually going to use it in here. And we're actually going to use it in here. Right, but we're going to check that the basics work first. We're going to say actor location, and that is going to go in there. So we're going to use an attenuation. Footsteps sound attenuation sounds pretty good to me, considering it's a footsteps we're making. Okay, and that is going to give us a random footsteps, right, between the 6 different sounds that we've got. So there we have it. And that is the start of our basis for our animation blueprint for our enemy robot, or any enemy biped that uses the base enemy stuff. So what we can do is we can use the sci-fi robot, right? And we can use our animation enemy robot. Okay, so now when we do this, you'll see that he's idle. And our mesh, we can drag him down to the ground. And then, just to make sure, we can kind of make sure that this is right in line with the ground. That looks good to me. So there we have it. And now, if we go to our maps, okay, we can open our main map, we can save selected. And let's zoom in on something a bit. Right. And we can actually, we should be able to drop our robot in. And this is where it all goes wrong, usually. Well, we can see there that he's kind of in the right pose and everything. Okay, whatever. So what we got here? All right. Okay. This is the old crap. This is the stuff from a different animation. Right. So what we'll do is we'll delete that. And I hope this doesn't muck everything up. Dante, I can't have a look for now. I'll have a look when I'm off stream again. So we just need to wait until this actually deletes this stuff. Okay. And if we press play, we have a robot. And everything is working fine. Okay, now the important part of this is why is our pawn set to none? Okay. And if we go back to here, we can see we're setting our animation up. And that is correct. Let's say placed in world, right? And again, this is nothing. This is a bit weird. Okay. So it's obviously not going to get the right thing there, but what we're going to do is we're going to have a little play with something. What we're actually going to do is we're going to have an interface, okay? So we're going to go to blueprint and blueprint in, so this is going to be BPI, and we're going to call this, let's call it enemy. Okay. And we're going to say set pawn. Okay. And our base enemy is going to have BPI enemy. We shall save that. And our animation is going to have BPI enemy. Okay, and this is going to have event set pawn. Okay, maybe it's not. We're going to do that. We're going to save that. Ah, okay. We want to check this. And it is hitting there. And it is a base enemy. So we do have a reference to the enemy. Now, we have to go back to here. And that is right. We'll set that back. And we'll save that. Okay. So basically we are possessing the enemy, right? And this is going to have to also have BPI enemy. But of course, our problem is that we don't have the animation instance, and I don't know why that is happening. Right? Let me see, set pawn message. Okay. So if we come to here, event set pawn, and we set the pawn, right? So if we go back to our interface, we have a pawn, BP, base enemy. Save that. So here's the pawn. Save that. Then if we go into here, our pawn goes to here. And then what we can do is we can do this. Okay. But the interesting thing is if this is going to be anything, and this is what was stumbling me last night, but this time we do have an enemy and we can set the pawn. Right, so we can resume that, and now if we go to our animation blueprint, well, this is really weird. So we can add a breakpoint here. Now, I'm not convinced right that this is the correct blueprint. I am not convinced that this is the correct blueprint at all. I think I'm looking at the wrong blueprint. Okay. Now, if I press play, then step over and step into, you see that? That's none at the moment. But if we step over, this is base enemy 2, and this pawn is now correct. Okay, so I'm not now convinced that this isn't, I'm not convinced that this isn't working per se. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to add new folder. We're going to say trees, and we're going to add a new folder, and we're going to say BBs for blackboard. Then in here we're going to add a behavior tree, so that's going to be BT underscore base underscore in me. And then in the blackboards we're going to create a new blackboard called BB underscore base underscore in me. And then in our trees we're going to open this, and it's going to be BB base enemy. Okay, and then we're going to add a selector, And in the blackboard, we're going to have an enum and we'll call it e state. And that's going to be e and I think we do it in here, e enemy state. Okay, Dante, glad you're back, mate. So we can save that for now. We can go back to our enum. Right. And we can do a blackboard. And we're doing e state. And we're saying is equal to waiting. Right. Well, actually we don't. We just do a selector here. And we can delete this. And then we do a selector, and we basically copy paste this for the number of states we've got. And in fact, I'd be better doing this. And we add a decorator, blackboard, then we select eState, then we duplicate and basically do it for each state. Duplicate, duplicate. I think there's 5, I'm not too sure. And we'll do it once more, then we'll check it out. Right, so these all get joined here. And the one we're interested in is going to be wander to start with. We're just going to make it wander about. Right, we ain't going to use any fancy environmental queries or anything like that. We'll just actually make it wander about. Right, so we'll just do that. And then, so we've got waiting. We've got wandering. We've got moving. Where are we? Right click there. Attacking. Dying. We've got one more. So we'll duplicate that. And normally you just basically say dead. You would do this one first. But it doesn't matter since we've got this set up as an enumerator, right? But fundamentally we're going to say dead. Okay. Cool. So basically, in here, we're just going to do a sequence. And the sequence is going to be wait for, let's say, 5 seconds, random deviation of 1. Right, and then we're going to write a service. Not a service, we're going to write a task, which changes our condition to wandering, okay? So if we're in wandering, we're going to create a new task, and we're basically going to set a new position to wander to, and then we're going to set ourselves to moving, okay? Then once we're moving and we've actually hit the move to, then we're going to set ourselves back to waiting, which is then going to take 5 seconds and then move us back to wandering, okay? So that is the plan for that, and we're going to move on with that in a couple of minutes, where after I have got myself a comfort break and a cigarette. I shall be back in 2 minutes. Hit the like and subscribe button while you're waiting, and check out the description for the Discord, Patreon, and my previous game on Steam. Back in a moment, guys. Okay guys, we are back and ready to go. So, where are we? Is the question. So, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get our AI, and we're going to have to do a new folder and call it tasks. Okay. And we're going to create a new task. I think it's this one that we select. Now, I don't know where the heck it's put that. Where in the goddarn heck has it put that task? Okay, so it's put it in the trees, so that's not so bad. Okay, I was going to get really upset for a minute there. So we'll keep it as BT task, and we shall call it set to wonder. Okay, so in here we're going to have a variable, and it's going to be called state. We're going to set it to visible because you need to, and this is going to be blackboard key selector. Event receive execute. We're going to say control pawn. Actually, we're not going to say anything at this point. We're going to get this, and I've completely forget how you do this. We set blackboard value, and then we're going to make and this isn't ideal. Okay, we aren't going to do that. But we're going to get controlled pawn, and we're going to cast it to BP base enemy. Right, and we're going to say base get base stats, and we're going to set members in there, we're going to say current state, and we're going to set it to wandering. Okay, bear with me. And set base stats. So what we're going to do here is we're setting it both to, we're setting not only our blackboard key, but our we're going to be setting our blackboard key plus the actual monster to, or the enemy, to the correct state. In this case, we're going to wandering, okay? Oops. And then we can break this again. We can grab our state and plug it in here. Then we can hide unconnected and plug this in here. Then we can move that to there. And what's the one we do? Is it success? I can't remember. We do finish execute. That's what it is. And success. Okay. And that moves us along to the next step in our behavior tree. Okay. So the next thing we do is this task. What do we call it? Set to wander. Okay. And we set this to E state. And that should be us for that. And now what we do is we rename it, and what we're going to do is we're going to call it enemy set to wander. It's so that these are broken off from the like drone stuff, and this keeps it. And this is going to be and we're going to say get wander location. Okay. So this time we're going to set it to moving, right? We're going to need another blackboard value. Where's the blackboard? We're going to need a new key, and it's going to be a vector, and it's going to be wander location. Okay, so we can save that. And in our wander location, we're going to need this variable, wander location, and it's going to be a blackboard selector key, and we need to make it visible, right? And we're going to get this. Okay, we are going to do that, but we're going to get that, and we're going to set blackboard value as vector. Okay, and we're going to do this same thing, except this time we should be able to get a random location. Okay, which one is it? This one, I believe. Random location. Now there is one here that you can, it's a simpler one. There is two of these, but I don't know what the other one's called. I think they're both something to do with the radius. Get random reachable point radius. Again, it's looking for the nav data there. I'm not 100% sure what these are. I'm sure there's a simpler one that doesn't ask you for the nav data. Or anything. But we'll try this one. We'll leave both of them there. Right, I don't know if we actually need to use any of this stuff. And this is going to be get actor location. And that's going to go in the origin. And then we'll say 5,000. Okay, and then that's going to go to there. So what we'll do is we'll plug that in there. Then we plug this. No, it's a free asset, Jammy. It's very rarely I make anything unless, or let's say, it's very rare that I make anything, and hi Jammy, yeah. It's very rarely I make anything that's in the slightest bit complicated or impressive. I tend to stick to very simple things because it's about all I can do in Blender. Not too proud to say it, but I'm very limited as far as Blender goes. Okay, what we'll do is we'll tie this up a bit. That makes it a bit better. Now, that works. It doesn't get upset. So if we go back to here, right, we do a sequence. In fact, all we do, yeah, we do a sequence, and that sequence is the task get wander location. And wander location is wander location, and e-state is e-state. So we save that, and then we move to wander location. And then basically we set e-state back to so we duplicate that and we say set to waiting. Okay, and for this all we do is set this back to waiting. Okay, and this is all going to be a miracle if it works. Okay, and we go back to our blackboard and we actually don't do that. What we do is we do a sequence and that goes to here, and then we do enemy set to waiting, and e-state goes to e-state, and we save that. So basically these are the defaults for when it's basically nothing really happening and it's just wandering around. It hasn't spotted any of the bad guys or what it proposes to be bad guys or bad buildings or drones or whatever. All we're doing is getting this guy to basically wander around. Okay. So what we need to do now is go back to our AI here, and is it use Blackboard? I think it's, is it used Blackboard? Can't remember. Can't remember if it's used Blackboard or which one it is. Let me have a minute. Let's see. Let's run behavior tree. So we run behavior tree, and it's this one. Okay, and the next thing we need to do is get base stats, and we need to pass in the E state. Right, so we get the Blackboard, and we set value as enum. We pass in the current state, and then we make a literal name, which is going to be E state. And then this can all go up here. Do that, then we shall save all. And let's see what happens, shall we? Our little robot here, in theory, should start running around. Well, yeah, you should start walking around anyway. Okay, disable that, but we'll step over. Step over. That's all good. Step over. We run the behavior tree, and then we set that value. And there he goes. Awesome sauceum. Right, now what we need to do here, the first thing is rotate to there, right, so he's actually facing in the correct direction, right, but fundamentally it's working. So our animation is working, everything is connected up correctly. And we basically have it all going well. So we can press play again. And off he goes. Now, it isn't facing that way. Don't ask me why. But what it looks like is, I'm sure in here, right? When we're using this, it's not necessarily here, but it might be in here. Right, it might be, there's a setting somewhere that you click, right? I can't remember where it is. But one of the things is, we need to make sure that our robot is actually facing in the correct direction. Right, so we need the perspective, and you'll notice that he's not, right? So we need him to rotate through 90. Okay, it's going to actually be 270. And now he should work perfectly fine. And there he goes. Pretty cool, huh? And then off he goes. That's pretty awesome. So there we have a series of different things where, number one, he is using the character movement to drive the animation, and that is being driven by the AI, which is picking a place for him to run to and then moving, and basically the character movement is then being activated and giving us a speed and such. Right? So there you go. And now our final part of the equation, right, for our first look at our first enemy blueprint is to now make this a child and pull the information. Instead of this being set up here, it should be set up from the data table. Okay? And that is something we're going to look at once I come back from getting a drink. So I shall be back in just one moment, and we can continue on. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen so far, hit the like and subscribe, and check out the description for more information. Back in a moment. Okay, so now that we've built the whole thing, let's break the whole thing. And Dante, what was with the bless you someone in the background? don't understand what that comment actually meant. So what we're going to do is we're going to set that to none. We're going to save that. You'll notice he has 0 animation now. And we're going to set his base to none. Okay, this is where it gets interesting, folks. This is where it goes to crap. So, in our base enemy, when we do this, we are, oh, I deleted it, didn't I? I deleted our previous one, I think. Yep, I deleted our previous enemy. So we get to see this again, which is great. So what we do is we get data table row names, and it's going to come from DT enemies. Was it on my mic? If it was, it had to probably be my wife, so there's that. So what we're going to do is we're going to say length now you've got me sneezing, thank you very much. We're going to say -1. That's going to give us the length of this for how many rows we have. Then we're going to do get integer in range. Is it called integer? Integer in range. Random integer in range 0 to here. Thank you. And we're going to say get a copy. So we're going to get our individual value for this, our individual array element, and it's going to be obviously going to be a random one from taken from this array, and then we're going to get data table row, which is again going to come from DT enemies. And this is where things get exciting. Right, and this is where, this is basically me making a random monster spawner. Okay, this is what it ends up being. So what we can do is we can pull in our base stats. We can say set. And because we are pulling it from the same structure, we can just plug it straight in. And now we can break the strut, right? And we are basically going to grab the mesh, and then we're going to say set skeletal mesh, and we'll test this part bit by bit, okay? Because this wasn't working last night, but I'm not 100% sure whether it was my code or the fact that it was based on the wrong skeleton or what it was, but we shall test it bit by bit. Now at this point we don't need the name, hit points, current, this, that. We probably don't need that either. We don't need has target. The only three things we need are the animation blueprint, AI controller, and mesh. Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. Now it's already set up to this mesh here, so we're going to set it to none. And now you will see that we have no mesh. And when we look at our actual map and where we actually start, you will notice that we have no mesh, right? Okay, but when we press play, we now have a mesh. But you'll notice we have no animation. We have no controller. Okay? So, next thing we do is we come back into here and we animation and it isn't that. We actually set the animation no, we don't. We set the anim instance. Okay. So what we do is we're pulling it from data table. Okay. And we shall test again at this point. So he's just going to give us a standing position. Right? And finally, what we need to do right, I'm not convinced that this is either working or not working at this point, okay? So what we're going to do is say set AI controller, because I think we might need all three of these to be connected to actually working. Right, so we're gradually going to get these to work. Okay. And let's see if this actually works. And the answer to that is no. Now, there's one thing we do need to have a look at here. And that is our robot guy. And you'll notice his animation class is nothing. Okay, So we're going to have to add a breakpoint here. Now we know it's setting this, right? So there we go. Sets that, no problem. Now the question is, have I got these set in the data table, or did I actually delete them? Now it did set it, which of course means that our robot should show what it is. Right? So here's our base enemy. We've got our skeletal mesh. We haven't set this class. And if we check for the pawn, it certainly has a movement thing. And here's the pawn. It does have a base enemy, right? But at the moment, it's not setting the animation. So we need to go and find out what this is. And I believe, and this actually needs updated, and it does. So it's that one there. Okay. So we can resume that. And now you can see that our guy is doing what he needs to do. Okay? But he is not this is the problem from last night, that the AI controller class is not being set. Right? Everything else is working fine. But if we go into the AI controller class, right, you will notice that this never gets fired. And then if we actually add a begin, an event begin play, right, and add a breakpoint, if we run this, run that, you'll notice that it never runs the correct thing. Right? So what I'm thinking is, if we get AI controller, what does it actually tell us? So we can say print string right, we can undo that, do that. What does it actually think? Now there may be a way around about this that I can do this. So we'll print it in green and we'll see what it thinks is the AI controller. Right, we can say that that's okay and we can say that this is okay. And did it actually print something there? I don't know. It seems to me that it didn't. I'm looking for something. Right, so what we'll do is we'll do append and we'll do our usual big long thing. And we'll do that into B. We'll do that into the print string. We'll save that, press play, and we're getting nothing. Right, so the thing we actually want to do here, oh wait a minute, is possess, okay? This is a really strange one. And this is the issue I had last night. This was where it came, I came a cropper last night. Okay, because this, excuse me, this last night is where things started getting a bit weird. Now, if we look at this, right, if we look at this closely, right, we can go to base enemy, right, and if we keep going down here, and we actually look at the pawn, you can see here that the AI controller class for the pawn is actually set. right? Now, granted, it's set after the fact, but it is set. So if I say get pawn, and it could be any of these, to be fair. And that's get the pawn owner. And that's the player pawn. I'm just wondering if this might work. Obviously not. Now, I know that there's something I'm missing here. There's something ubiquitous here that I'm missing. That there's a step somewhere that I am missing, okay? If I say self, right, and I break that, then we press play, and we still have nothing. If I add a breakpoint there, press play, it's a reference to self, and this has nothing. It has no AI controller. Okay, so there's something here where it's setting the AI controller, right? But we're not setting the AI controller, right? Now, I shall kind of prove a point here in that I'm going to stop this, right? And then if we take this away, we save this, we're on our base enemy, right? And if we actually select that, okay, and we press play and resume, we get the event possess, right? And this guy should start running around basically. There he goes. Right, but for some reason, trying to set it up from variable, it does not like it at all. Now, if I could solve that problem, we are totally in business. But at the moment, I cannot seem to actually work out what the issue is. Okay. And that's not what we're looking for. So basically what I'm thinking is here, right? If we say AI controller, right? And we set it as an AI controller, right? Now, can we, that's not a pawn. Right. So I've got really no idea what I'm doing here. And we can't. Controlled pawn. So apparently we can't do this. This is a pawn action. Get control pawn. I want to see if this actually prints anything out. Obviously not. Right, well, interesting indeed. Right, on that, I don't think we're going to make any more progress for you guys to see at the moment. I need to solve this problem. Either A, solve this problem, or B, just use the defaults and not have it in a data table. Right, now it would be great to get it in the data table, but I don't know if I can or not. So I'm going to leave it at that. So if you've enjoyed the stream on animation blueprints, hit the like and subscribe. Check out the description for the usual stuff, Discord, Patreon, and previous game on Steam. And I hope to see you all again tonight, possibly at 8 PM Central. So on that, bye bye for now and have a good afternoon.